All right. Hey, holy smoke, we're live. All right. So, hey, welcome. Happy Monday. So, tonight we're going to be talking about barriers and the false ones at that, right after I share this. Just go find this post. Happy Monday. Hope you guys had a good weekend and a great week. Just going to go share this on a couple different streams. So, I'm coming to you guys live this week from Miami. Worked in the 10X headquarters today. So good to be around that energy. So good to be around that energy. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to be talking about Grant Strategy of the Week, which is what I do on every Monday. Let me mute my phone. Trying to pull this up. There I am. Okay, sharing. What are your barriers? Okay. Share to group. Okay, cool. Hey, thank you for being here. So I'm going to go, I've got some notes here that I want to make sure that I'm referencing proper. Okay, so if you have comments, feel free to chime in, feel free to leave a comment or two. I will most likely make sure you leave your comments at the 10X Goals and Accountability Facebook page. That way I can see them fully. If you're not following that page, please do so. Would love to have you there. 10X Goals and Accountability is literally about, it's pretty obvious, I think. It's about understanding what your goals are and then making sure that you stay accountable to them. So, and on Mondays, what I love to do is come in here live and take a look at Grant's Strategy of the Week, which is what he's posting all the time. And I'll blog on that over the weekend over at cardonesolutions.com. So that's where I'll blog on that. And then you can pop in and see, get my 2 cents on it. I'm going to try and extract the lessons out, just have a conversation about what's going on there. So here's what we're going to do first. So there is a guy recently who he ran a marathon in less than 2 hours. His name is Eliud Kipchoge. Now, in Grant's Strategy of the Week, Grant literally asks us to identify what are our false barriers. So if you're following along, if you're catching this on a replay, what I want you to start doing right now is just start thinking about yours. Mine too. I'm going to think about mine. You think about yours. What do you believe are barriers in your life right now that you know are false, but you're still allowing them to hold you back? So now if we just look at history, since probably about 1954, anytime you wanted to cite an example of what happens when one person does the seemingly impossible and he breaks the unbreakable barrier, right? Most people typically reference a guy named Roger Banister. Now, in 1954, Roger Banister became the first dude to run 1 mile, sub 4 minutes. What's up, Paul Gordon? Became the first guy to run a marathon or a mile in under 4 minutes. So prior to this, the general consensus upon everybody was, well, that's never going to happen. Can't do it. But Bannister gets it handled, and he does it in 3 minutes and 59 seconds. Jose Garza, thank you for being here, does it in 3 minutes and 59 seconds. So here's where it gets crazy, though, is that in 1999, another guy, Hicham El Guerrouj, I think, if I'm pronouncing it right. I'm probably butchering it, and I'm sorry if I am. But this guy does it in 3 minutes and 43 seconds. And that's the current world record that's been there since 1999. So what's the lesson? What can we learn from just that? Is that before a barrier gets broken, there's really only a small fragment of people. Hey, hold on. Paul's got a question. Paul says, hey, David, should I invite my friends to like it? Yes, Paul, you should invite your friends to like this page. That would be awesome. I'd much appreciate it. So the lesson, okay? The lesson to these barriers getting broken is this. Before a barrier gets broken, there's just a small fraction of folks that see the barrier as breakable. And they actually come to a place of knowingness where they know it can be broken. They actually see what's possible. But once it's broken, then more and more people start to see what is possible. And then they start to accomplish it themselves. So much so that ultimately, what was once unbreakable is now pretty commonplace amongst the elite and totally possible to everybody else. So that's the 4-minute mile. That is the sound barrier. That is summiting Mount Everest. At first, it was 2 guys. And now it's like I don't know the number, but it's a lot. It's 2,000 people or more summit Mount Everest every season. For years, people thought you couldn't squat 1,000 pounds. Dudes are banging out 1,200. And this list just goes on and on and on, because why? Records are made to be broken. Barriers are made to be broken. And as of October of 2019, we now have this really amazing sort of new reference point, courtesy of Eliud Kipchoge. He's from Kenya, and he hits a sub 2-hour marathon, which means his pace was 4 minutes and 34 seconds, which, if you remember earlier, that's literally 60 seconds slower than the current 1 mile speed record. So this dude's hauling ass, right? So this is not a physical barrier. This was a mental barrier. It's always a mental barrier. It's a physical barrier because it's a mental barrier. Okay? So earlier, I challenged you or asked you to start thinking about what are barriers that you believe to be true that you know are false, or that you act as if they're true, but you know them to be false, and they're holding you back. They're limiting you. Like, we all have these, right? So I started wondering as I'm reading through the strategy of the week and I'm looking at the blog, and I'm like, it's like, what is the difference? What's the difference in mindset and vision between the people who break through these barriers and then the people who believe it's not possible? So, how many people probably told this guy, you can't do a 2-hour marathon sub? You just can't, okay? But he did it anyway. So what's the difference in mindset and vision between him and everybody else? And then can we take that mindset, if we understand it, can we take it and then apply it to our own barriers? What can we learn from Mr. Kipchoge about breaking our own barriers? So here's what he said. And this is posted in Grant Strategy of the Week. So go look it up. But this is what he says. He says, I'm sending a message to every individual in this world that when you work hard, when you actually concentrate, when you set your priorities high, when you actually set your goals and put them in your heart and in your mind, you will accomplish without any question. Now, why is this so fantastic? Because if you have a barrier, this is exactly how you break it. Like, this is exactly how you break it. The question is, for me and you, is, are we willing to confront it? Are we going to stare it down? Are we going to look it in the face, say, no, I'm not going to let you hold me back? So let's go back to you or me. What is your barrier? This is your action item. This is your plan, okay? Figure out what your barrier is, isolate it, identify it, okay? What do you believe are your limits? For real. How do you break through them? Well, hard work, actually concentrate, set your priorities high, actually set your goals. I love that part. And put them in your heart and in your mind. And this is the best part. You will accomplish without any question. He didn't say you might accomplish. He didn't say you'll probably accomplish. He said you will accomplish. So what do you want to accomplish? Whatever it is, somebody's probably already done it, which means it's possible. And the reasons that you think you can't, those are your barriers. and they're totally breakable. So this is just another one of those perfect examples of, and a challenge actually. There's a huge dichotomy between simple and easy. You know, just because something's simple doesn't mean it's easy. And this instruction list that we have now about breaking your own barriers, very simple. Probably not very easy. Simple and easy are not synonymous in any way. And this brings me to another point. I just want to take a side note. I don't know if you've seen the movie or not. If you haven't, please go, because it's amazing. But it's called A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. Tom Hanks is playing Mr. Rogers. And Mr. Rogers gets interviewed by a journalist who's got some pain in his life. He's got some heartache. And Mr. Rogers helps him through that. And we also learn a lot about Mr. Rogers. But the journalist is talking to his wife. And he says, or asks her, what is it? What's it like living with a saint? I think is the question he asked her. She says, and I love this quote. It brought tears in my eyes. She says, if you think of him being a saint, his way of living is unattainable. So I'm just going to say that again. If you think of him as being a saint, then his way of living is unattainable. So what I took from that, you may get something totally different, but what I took from that is when you give someone saint-like qualities or saint-like character, or you look at somebody and say, well, he's a freak of nature, right? Essentially, you're just letting yourself off the hook. And I do this too. I've done it. Probably not so much anymore because now I'm aware. But man, this is how this is how other people justify and make sense of operating below their true potential, which Grant talks a lot about in the 10X rule. 10X rule is about thinking bigger. It's about going bigger. It's about operating at your full potential. And if you're not taking massive levels of action that you know you're capable of, even if you're doing the average, you're not operating at your full potential. You're not maximizing all the gifts that were given to you. And when you give somebody else a saint-like quality, it's just your way of you making sense of you. It says more about you than them. So here's what Grant said in his strategy. I used to not even consider being a billionaire. But as we approach the end of 2019, I know I will become a billionaire. And I am not the first. Many have gone before me, and many will follow me. So here he is coming from a place of total knowingness that, hey, this is where I'm headed. Other people have gone here before, so why not me? So remember earlier I listed off those 5 things. Which one of those 5 do you think would be the main differentiator? Work hard, actually concentrate, set your priorities high, actually set your goals, put them in your heart and in your mind. Which one do you think would be, especially considering the 10X rule as it is, which one do you feel like would be the catalyst to breaking your barriers? The thing that would like start the fire? Well, set your priorities high. Set high standards. I'm guilty of not setting standards high enough. Are you? Hope so. Should be. So in Grant Strategy of the Week, takes a little piece of Cardone University out and says this: people that break barriers hold themselves to performance standards higher than normal. So as we approach the end of the strategy, we get some strategies. So this week, I'm going to give you, courtesy of Grant, 3 things that we can all do to start setting those high standards and then living accordingly. So the first thing is to stop comparing yourself to others. Just so you can feel good about being just better than average. Bam. Right? Okay. May not feel good. Once you recognize that you've done it, you're doing it, that might be a bitter pill that you're going to have to swallow on that one. Okay. That means you got to put the ego down. Okay. And again, that goes back to that thing earlier where you start making sense of you not operating at your full potential. So stop comparing yourself to others just so you can feel good about being just better than average. Start to push yourself internally to go further than what most would consider reasonable. So Grant had a guy named David Goggins on his podcast a while back, but here's a guy who knows how to push himself internally to go further than what most people would consider reasonable. You should watch that podcast if you haven't seen it. If you want a link for it, just shoot me an email, david@grantcardone.com. I'll get it to you. And then the final thing is to just look at norms. Look at all the norms. The stats, the metrics, the data. Look at all the normal levels of action. And then see what you can and start immediately doing that's better than that, more than that, because it's in you. You can do it. Will you, is the question. So the bottom line, the answer to how does a guy like Eliud Kipchoge break 2-hour marathon, it's this. Barriers are made to be broken. But if you're going to break one, you need the right mindset. You have to have that. You need a shift in think, because wherever your thoughts are at now, it's got to be different. Einstein talks about that. Whatever mindset you have now must be like, if you want to solve a problem, you have to think differently than what you were thinking with when you created the problem, which I think is brilliant. I probably just totally botched that quote, but I think you get the point. So one of the things that we can do for you, one of the things that we will offer is a complimentary 45-minute coach call and then 7 days free access to Cardone University. This is going to help you to get started right on having the right mindset. You can also come join us at 10X Growth Conference. This is 12,000 other folks just like you, listening to a host of barrier breaking people that will be allowing you to start seeing what is possible for you. If they did it, you can do it, right? Or you may need a more intimate setting. You may need to start deep diving into what you're doing, how you're doing it, where your business is at now, where you want it to be, start putting a plan in play, right? So you may need a more intimate setting. You may need more of a tighter niche, right? You may have a very specific business that needs specific help. So we do boot camps at 10X headquarters. This is where I'm at this week. And they're more intimate, they're more hard targeted for your specific growth and your business needs. So for more information on any of those things, whether that's getting some access to Cardone University and doing a free coach call, whether that's getting more information about GrowthCon, who's going to be there? Kevin Hart is one of them. Rick Ross, another one. Scooter Braun. I mean, there's some like amazing speakers already lined up, and they haven't you probably don't want to miss that. Just leave it at that. Or boot camps, whatever you want to, whatever you feel, whatever got your eyebrow raised the most, we just want to help. And there's 3 different ways we do that. So would be happy to hop on a short call with you. You can reach me at 310-777-0352. Can't get me there. Shoot an email out, david@grantcardone.com. Leave a message here, direct message me on Facebook, however you want to reach out. I'm here to help. And if you want to get some solutions, if you're looking to break through some of your barriers, these 3 things that I'm talking about right now are definite paths to get you there. It is simple. It will not be easy. That's the warning to you. So this week, I want you to go find your barriers, start breaking through. Just start chipping away. Break through your barriers. And if we can help with that, reach out. Okay? Have an awesome week. Happy Monday to you. Talk to you next week.